Indeed, time for our Friday interview, and one of our favorite guests on any Padre interview is Jake Cronenworth, who's obviously in St. Louis with the Padres, and joins us. Jake, how are things? I don't know. You're from Michigan. Maybe you're a little used to this, but they don't have humidity like this up there.
No, this is definitely a little hotter than Michigan. That's for sure.
It's trying to stay cool out there. Hey, look, yesterday I was going to come on and, surprise you and say, hey, did you know you played more games at second base than any other Padre? And then I read in the paper today that you were very well aware of that. They interviewed you about it yesterday, and you talked about it in the paper today and what that means to you. But it is pretty crazy when I think back to our first visit with you in spring training of 2020. I don't think anybody could have imagined that this would happen.
No, I mean, it's pretty crazy. It's one of those things, you're just trying to get into the big leagues and be with the team, and hold on, there's a golf cart going by here. You're trying to break in with the team and get comfortable with the guys, and I had just gotten traded over and didn't really know anybody. To be here now, 5.5, 6 years later is it's pretty special. That's for sure.
I mean, Jake, 431 starts, man, that is a crazy number. And to be ahead of a Hall of Famer in Roberto Alomar, I mean, I was a kid when Roberto Alomar was on this team. He was a young, exciting player. And here we are, fast forward to 2025. You're at the top of that. I mean, exciting player. And here we are, fast forward to 2025. Last year, did this come to your attention?
I didn't know about it until yesterday, until about it.
Jake, one of the things I've always enjoyed when we talk is you, to me anyway, are one of the guys that really gets it in terms of, playing baseball and getting through the daily grind of it all and understanding what's really important out there. And you've talked about this before, but I just want to ask you again. I mean, you have an 0 for 4 day. You have a 1 for 5 day. And somebody will ask you about the game, and your response will normally be, I think what you've told us is, did I do anything to help us win the game that may not have been in the batter's box? Did I do something defensively, on the base pass, whatever it might be? And I think that has been one of the secret sauces for your success here with the Padres. And I just wonder how, where that all came from maybe originally, and how you've been able to kind of keep that mantra.
Yeah, it's tough because, every night you want to go out there and succeed, and, you want to have that 2 or 3 hit game every night. And, I think everybody looks to the offensive side of the ball and be like, yeah, this is how you're going to help the team win, which of course, yes, it is. But I mean, there's a ton of other factors that, go into the game. I mean, shoot, you could go 0 for 4 and you could make no plays in the field and have no base running plays, but you may have saw something a pitcher did and gave some other guy a piece of advice, and he goes up and hits a big homer for you, or goes up and gets a big hit. And no, I mean, I think kind of where it stemmed from is kind of the start of my career. I was never this superstar. I was never the guy that was this huge prospect. I was didn't get to the big leagues until I was 26, and I think I always had to play that way to succeed. And I was just trying to find a way to help this team win no matter what, and stay with this group. And I've tried to take that into every single day, and not take any day for granted, for sure.
Jake Cronenworth joins us, doing a fine job of just that. And Jake, you and I had a conversation all the way back in spring training, and you were specifically talking about, sticking with the process, regardless of, whether you were getting the results offensively or not. And, throughout this season, you've done that. You've stuck with the process. You've stuck with your game plan. How are you doing with that as we kind of get further into the season? To this point, you haven't changed anything in terms of sticking with your process typically.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think, we had that conversation in spring training, and, all the work that I put in the off season, flying out to San Diego to hit in our lab, doing all different kinds of things to get myself to get to that point where I can, just show up every day and just go out and compete.
Right.
instead of thinking, oh, it's this or it's that. And I think I'm old enough now and I've played long enough now where, I'm at a point in my career where, it's not necessarily all about mechanics. It's
Right.
Going out there and getting the right pitch to hit. And, some days it's going to happen for you. Some days it's not. I mean, shoot, 4 days ago, I was hitting 250 with a 780 OPS or something like that. And now I'm not, but that's baseball, so 2-0 for 4s will do that for you. But, like you said, like it's, today's a new day and it's sticking to that process and, what can I do tonight to help the team win? And, that's part of it. I may get, an at-bat tonight where I draw a walk and score the winning run. Who knows?
Yeah, a 2-hit game is always just around the corner. Jake Cronenworth is with us. Where is this team in terms of offensively, just in your mind and the team's mind, in a season where the one thing that hasn't been consistent has been the offense? Give us kind of a little update from your perspective.
Yeah, I think compared to last year, and, I don't like to compare teams because every year is so unique in itself, as we've seen. And it's kind of how baseball is. But no, I mean, I think, I think would we like to be in a better place? 100%. But, I think if you asked everybody last year the same question, everybody would want to be in a better place too. You're always trying to get better and, get to that point. But I think we've put ourselves in a good position. I think for the most part, from my point of view, guys are having quality at bats up and down the lineup. We got on 7-2 last night in the second inning, and we fight our way back, and we're a couple walks away, a bloop and a blast away from taking the lead there. It doesn't happen for us, but that goes back to kind of what we were talking about earlier about kind of how I've attacked this year, and really tried to stay with the process. And we could look back on yesterday and be like, we failed, but at the same time, it's like, we had a pretty dang good offensive game. We had 12 hits and we scored 7 runs, and what can we do today to win today's game? I think that's kind of been the overall message. We could have 2 hits today and win 1-0. You never know.
Yeah. Jake Cronenworth joins us here, Padres second baseman, sometimes first baseman. And Jake, you mentioned yesterday, and I know we don't like to compare years because you're right. It's so uniquely different. But when you have a night like last night and you know what your offense is capable of, is there ever a sense the next day, like, all right, how can we get some type of carryover? Because last year you guys got rolling in the second half and it felt like you had those nights almost on a nightly basis. When you see a night like that where you guys put together so many quality at bats, you have a couple of homers, certainly that helps, but just overall the at bats were better. How is there a sense of, all right, maybe we can get this to carry over the following day and kind of build on this?
Yeah, I mean, I think the result is one thing. You're 12 hits and 7 runs in a game is great. Usually you're going to win those games, but I think the biggest thing that you want to carry over is that those quality at bats up and down the lineup. And
right.
What can we do tonight? Because we're not facing the same guy we did yesterday. They're going to come up with a whole new plan on how we're going to beat Michaelis today, and figure out like how are we going to have quality at bats up and down the lineup so that we can put ourselves in that position, that we did last night.
Right. Jake, I have to ask you because your name popped up in a trade rumor, and boy, it's that time of year, isn't it? You've been through this already, and so I imagine you're pretty good at dealing with it. But I imagine somebody mentioned that they saw it somewhere if you didn't see it yourself. So again, your laser focus has to come into play during this next week or so while these kinds of things swirl around.
Yeah, I mean, my focus is here. Obviously there's, from what I've been told, there's interest from other teams, and, it is what it is. But, my focus is, here with our club and, trying to help us win a World Series and get to our ultimate goal, and whatever I can do to do that.
Jake, I want to sneak one more last wing, and I really appreciate the time, but I wanted to know something kind of fun and upbeat. In the history of the Padres, to me, there's been 5 or 6 moments that will stand out forever. The Garvey home run, Tony's dad getting his 3,000th hit, Musgrove's first no-hitter. I think your hit against the Dodgers that put that series away belongs on that list of great memories. I'm curious, other than somebody like me bringing it up, how often do you allow yourself a moment to reflect on that and just kind of enjoy it? I know it's in the past, but do you ever do that? And if so, what are the circumstances?
No, I think, every once in a while, if somebody says something, or, maybe in the off season, I actually had I think it was we do the pictures on the field for the Padres membership, and I had a woman who's probably in her mid 40s come and say something really nice to me through a time that she was going through, and I think when stuff like that happens, and members of the community and what they were going through and how it impacted them, I think it kind of sinks in, and you realize, like, this is really what happened and the effect it had on not just the franchise, but on the city of San Diego.